Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Week 2 of the High School Football Preview Show here at the Altoona Mirror on YouTube TV. Before we get started looking at the games that Michael Boydham has picked for us, we want to have a big shout-out thank you to Aaron Batzel, the Southern Huntingdon football coach. Last week, we asked for a helmet for our first show. We also asked for T-shirts, but we take helmets, too, because Mike loves having the helmets. Aaron Batzel, down in Orbizonia, Three Springs, gets the helmet to his dad, Jeff Bates, up at Northern. Jeff's giving it to Gary Black, our football coach up at Northern Bedford. Gary's giving it to his wife, Rachel, who teaches with my wife, Ann Marie, and the chain of command. So at some point, I'm going to get my hands on that helmet this week. Mrs. Franco's going to lug it into the house, leave it on the dining room table, and it'll be here. And real quick, before I forget, if you can tell here, we have a tablecloth that is a football field that my daughter Maggie bought years ago that we used at home, and suggest I bring it in. In fact, Mike and Andy can attest to the blood stains on here from whenever the Dolphins would play the Steelers and Maggie.
There's some questionable activity going on at the Franco house.
Well, I actually think it's chocolate and barbecue sauce, but there are stains. I actually thought I cleaned them all with wipes, and evidently I did not clean them all with wipes. But anyways, thank you to Aaron Batzel. And if somebody wants to top Aaron by giving us a helmet too, or even equal Aaron, we will take the helmet. We like T-shirts too, but we love the helmets. You should see someday we'll let that Dan skin over. We have all these helmets building up over here in the corner, and we think it's awesome. Yep. But anyway, so right off the bat, we're going to talk about Northern Bedford at Claysburg Kimmel. Northern Bedford 1-0 at Claysburg Kimmel 0-1. What are you expecting from this game this week?
As you can see, that's our matchup there on the front. That's why we have it as
That's why we love having it there.
It's a very impressive performance by Northern Bedford in their first game. They lost a lot of players last year. Graduation, you don't really know how things are going to carry over. And Coach Black was very happy with what he got out of his team. Vaughn Schleinkoffer, he had been injured all year last year with an ankle injury and didn't even get to play JV to try to get ready for this season. Came in, stepped into that role in the place of Ian Snyder and really did a great job at quarterback for Northern Bedford. And then on the other side, you have Claysburg Kimmel, who played decently well against one of the best teams in the ICC, Berlin Brothers Valley. They have a very athletic quarterback that was doing well in that beginning of that game, Mason Campagna, until they they kind of figured out what they were doing, and Berlin was able to make some adjustments. But this is a situation where Northern Bedford has to be ready for this. They can't fall too far behind with a bunch of young guys.
I'm curious. I was reading over Mike's notes that Claysburg Kimmel's only won one of these games in the last 20-some years. How is a coach, are you coaching these kids to not know about that? Obviously, if they read the mirror, they're going to know about that. Yeah. We encourage kids to read the mirror.
Absolutely.
But how hard of that is a coaching job, the Claysburg Kimmel staff?
That's hard when you only have one win in, 20 years or so. I'm sure those kids at Claysburg, after they played pretty well against Berlin last week, I'm sure they would like to get a big win against Northern Bedford too. The wheel just keeps on turning for those guys as well.
And I'm curious for you, because they were in that game in the first half, because you and I were in the office, and they called in the score, Claysburg Kimmel 7, Berlin nothing, and they coupled that with some of the other scores. We were thinking, oh my gosh, it's bizarro.
Yeah.
Do you think that's enough for Claysburg to at least give them a fighting chance to stay in this game early?
Well, they have to, because Claysburg actually has a really daunting first half schedule. When I talked to Coach Kasich, he was saying, hey, it doesn't get much easier from here. We got Juniata Valley coming up, some other really tough games, and they have to do something here at the beginning of half the season, because even if they, get better by being close in some of these games and do well in the end of the season, they still have to get some wins to be able to qualify for the playoffs to make it mean something. So, they got to eke out some wins here in the tough part of their schedule to stay in it so that the games mean something down the road.
So, going on to our next game and talking about tough part of schedule, Altoona, which was in their game with Hollidaysburg last week until Hollidaysburg started to pull away in the second half. They are going to State College, which is 1-0, and State College won at Gateway last week pretty handily, 49-14. This is using the word daunting, I think one of you two just used it. This is a daunting task for the Mountain Lions.
Yeah, and they obviously came up short last week against Hollidaysburg. Worked some new players into the offense. Last year I remember covering the game against State College, and I think they took up like the whole first quarter driving the ball down and scoring a touchdown, and then State College just got a long kickoff return and scored almost immediately. It's just been a tough challenge because it's not so much that Altoona isn't a solid team. Altoona has good football players. It's just that State College has been one of the premier teams in 6A in the state.
It's like you're fighting an uphill battle. I'm curious. I always refer to you as my player guy here and everything.
Yeah.
But you just lost to a rival, and now you're going to play. It's a rival, but it's not like Altoona Hollidaysburg. And those kids know that State College just crushed Gateway. They're not the Gateway of a couple of years ago, but that's still to go to a Whitfield school and win by 30-some points.
Yeah.
Again, how do you coach your kids to not think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure.
That's why you're recording.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not an easy task at all. I mean, you got. I guess you got to first say, hey, this isn't the same State College team as in the past. The State College still might be really good. I know they just hammered, one of the most historically best programs in the state in Gateway. I know they've struggled a little bit since Terry Smith went to Penn State, but that's a daunting task. I mean, you got to keep getting after it because I mean that's a pretty tough schedule those first 2 weeks for those Altoona kids.
For the fans of Altoona who might not be aware, another thing to keep your mind on is that Dante Sheffy, one of the running backs for State College, he's moved. He's now playing for Harrisburg, so he's no longer on the team. But Altoona actually did a pretty decent job against him in the playoff game last year that was relatively close. So that's the other thing. I mean, the last time these teams met was the playoffs last year, and that game was competitive. So
it was much better than regular season.
Right.
A team that we don't have to use the word daunting ever. We've used it 3 times already, so we are not allowed to use it anymore. Dan can beep it out, and everybody will think it was a cuss word. Bishop Guilfoyle 1-0, and McCort Carroll 1-0. And again, here's another one of Mike's cool tidbits here. McCort hasn't beaten BG, the one time here? The last time was 12 years ago. But McCort Carroll has to feel pretty good because they're coming off a win over Central Cambria. But BG, I got to listen to some of that on the radio. They dominated Bald Eagle, and Bald Eagle also ended up losing their quarterback. But, what do you know about McCort Carroll?
Well, the one thing I want to point out real quick about BG is that, Carson Nagel got hurt in that game, Bald Eagle's quarterback, but he played the majority of the game.
Yeah.
There was 510 minutes left.
And he struggled against this offense, against this defense, which that's the headline right there, because he's one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the area, and BG pretty much shut him down. So that is very intimidating for any team that's going to try to throw the ball against BG this year because they were able to do such a good job. Now, McCort Carroll threw the ball a little bit against Central Cambria last week, and that was a very nice win. I picked Central Cambria. I think Central Cambria is a much improved team this year. Grady Snyder's a great athlete from Central Cambria. And McCort Carroll was able to score in the last few minutes there with a Galucci touchdown and take the lead and win that game by making the extra point. So I think that they'll be fired up. This is a rivalry game, despite the fact it hasn't been close for over a decade. But it's just a question of, can you stop a team like BG that you're not going to score a ton of points against, so you need to hold them in check offensively.
And how big of a deal, too, that McCort comes into this game with a win, because last year I think Central Cambria won that game and everything. How big of a deal is that, at least for McCort Carroll?
If I think about it, I think that's one of the better wins for McCort Carroll in, at least a couple of years. I know this is only a couple of years as a program. Maybe the best win since they merged, but Yeah, really nice win. It wasn't a mistake either. It was a pretty close game the whole way.
And they had the lead, and then Central Cambria then came back, and then McCort Carroll had to go down
Yeah.
and do that. But BG really, I think, opened up some eyes there because I took BG because it was home, and I'd like to think if that game was at Bold Eagle, I think BG still would have won that game.
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
That's what I thought. Our next game we're going to look at, Purchase Line 0-1 at Cambria Heights 1-0. Cambria Heights, I feel bad about Purchase Line, but I go think Cambria Heights is, not that we keep point spreads on high school games. Or not
We will not do that.
But I go think Cambria Heights should win this game.
Well, one of the reasons I put this game on here was this is a rematch of the District 6 championship game last year. Cambria Heights was able to beat Purchase Line. And now that won't be the district championship game this year because Cambria Heights is up to 2A. But Purchase Line really struggled the first week and lost a pretty large margin to Northern Cambria. Now, that said, I think Northern Cambria is going to be really good this year. So I just think Cambria Heights, I wanted to put them on here because they had a really nice win last week against River Valley. River Valley is one of the top teams in the Heritage Conference, and that's a team that Cambria Heights lost to, I believe, last year. So, and then went on to win the district championship. So this is the team at Cambria Heights that they were building toward. They were kind of a year ahead of schedule last year. These kids this year, this is their best shot to, go back and win the Heritage Conference again, and we'll see what happens.
Now, when you worked at Clearfield, you covered Purchase Line sometimes.
We did, yeah.
Are they a program that always has back-to-back winning seasons, or is it kind of because how small they are? 1 year good, 1 year not. I mean,
They've had their years, that's for sure. I mean, I remember when I was in high school before I got to the Progress. I mean, Purchase Line, they were really. I think they were maybe in the district semis the 1 year, maybe in the district championship. They've had some years. They've also had their years when they've struggled too. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see them win there last year, and tough loss to open the season last week though.
Our next game we're looking at Hollidaysburg 1-0. Going to the Steel City, Pittsburgh, to play at Taylor Allderdice. I got inside info. I called my little brother who lives out in Pittsburgh. Told Taylor Allderdice is coming off a win off Fox Chapel. Mike will tell you in a little bit. The Taylor Allderdice won that game at 20-9. Fox Chapel having a difficult thing. So I was trying to read how much that win is. How good is Taylor Allderdice? How good is Taylor Allderdice?
Well, Taylor Allderdice hasn't had a ton of success over the past few years, but they're just riding emotional high right now winning that game because in the off season their coach was killed in an accident, and they
Fox Chapel's kid.
No.
Oh, Taylor Allderdice. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That was Jim Haslett's.
Yeah.
Jim Haslett, who used to coach in the NFL. His brother was the coach of Taylor Allderdice.
Yeah, and so the fact that they this is their first home game since that tragedy, and I think that Homer Delatre was very concerned about that. He was concerned about the emotions. He was concerned about them coming off the win. And if you think about last year, Hollidaysburg got a big win over Altoona in the opening game, and then they went to Allegheny, and they had a lead. They probably could have won that game, and Homer thinks they should have won that game. They didn't, and part of that he thinks may have come from the emotional high of beating Altoona, and then you got a long road trip. Well, they got the exact same thing this week, so they have talked to the kids about maintaining their composure and trying to get off to a hot start this week.
When you played, did you have stuff like that with your coaches where they was after maybe one of your big rivalry games, like when you guys played, was it Glendale your rival?
Yeah, Glendale was our main rival.
Like, so your dad reminds you about all the time because he went to Glendale.
Yeah.
But is that like every day in practice, or is it the beginning of the week?
Especially in Hollidaysburg's case, because you're working for that Altoona game week 1 all summer long. I mean, that's what they're that's what they're working for all summer long. And then you go to week 2, you got a long trip to Pittsburgh to Allderdice, and when from everything we've heard, they might be in for a really inspired team on Friday night. So yeah, that's not going to be an easy. It's not going to be an easy game at all for Allderdice.
And now our quick hit segment. Myersdale 1-0 at everybody's new favorite team here at the Mirror. Glendale 1-0. Glendale coming off that huge win over Winter again last week in the newsroom. Ask Andy. Every time that score kept getting updated, Not that we swear out loud in the mirror, but we were swearing like, no way.
It was crazy, yeah.
It was so happy for Dave Trexler and so happy for those kids. Mike even pointed out in our preview show that week one about you were looking forward to seeing a couple of those kids.
Williams and McGarvey.
And Winburn, whose helmet we have here from Coach Guilfoyle, right?
Yep.
Couldn't have been nicer in his quote box. He sat there and said, hey, the better team won tonight. They deserve to win. You know, we didn't have that. But I'm just so happy for Glendale. I'm so happy for your dad who played at Glendale.
My dad's been at Glendale for 40 years. I must have heard. Did you see that Glendale score on Saturday like 10 times?
10 times.
Yeah.
But, Michael, what do you know about this?
Well, I'd just like to point out that was our showcase game last week.
We had both helmets, too, did we not? But anyways, what do we know about Myersdale here?
Myersdale, I wanted to point out that this is a completely different challenge for Glendale this week. Myersdale has a quarterback that was 16 for 18 and threw for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns in their season opening win against Kerwinsville. Now, Kerwinsville lately has not been known as having the greatest defense, but still, Winburn, if they have one weakness, it's their passing game. So, you know, those big guys at Glendale could kind of key in on that running game. They might not be able to do that against Myersdale because of the Jones kid at quarterback.
And our other quick hit here, Juniata Valley 1-0 at North Star 1-0. Juniata Valley beat up on Newport. North Star shut out your alma mater.
Yeah.
Mo Valley, who I picked Mo Valley last week, so you should have been hearing it from me.
I know.
How good is this North Star team? Because I still haven't picked this game when we're filming this. So I'm hoping Mike's intel here will help me decide who I'm doing.
Well, North Star has they're probably their best player back from last year, the Ethan Smith kid, a running back, but they don't have much else back. So that's the question. They had a breakout year last year. Will they be able to do that, have that success? It's kind of like Bald Eagle area that had Carson Nagel coming back, but not a lot of tarts around him. North Star, it'll be a question of whether, you know, they can do it, but with Juniata Valley actually won this game last year by a point. It was Juniata Valley's best win of the season. So Valley also had their quarterback get hurt last week in Jet Rand, and Damian Williams came on and did a great job. So we'll see. You know, this is a test game for both of these teams on how they're going to do this year.
Well, how good is this North Star win? Because Mo Valley, I mean, your community up there, what are they expecting from Mo Valley this year?
It's still a young team, I think. You know, they're gonna have their struggles a little bit, I think, still. But from what I hear, you know, they're coming here pretty soon. They're gonna have a pretty good class here coming. If not next year, maybe here in a couple of years, they might be making some noise.
So if I were a betting man and I was going to pick somebody this week, could I pick Juniata Valley, even though they have to go to North Star?
Don't bet on
Star's home opener. Yeah, don't bet on
high school football.
Pick the green team.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good one. Well, that's going to start us off with our rundown here at the end. We're going to go with Andy's line of the week, and then Mike's stat of the week, and then whatever comes after that.
Short steps. Short steps are better than long steps.
What's your line of the week, Andrew?
All right, the first line of the week. You know, I struggled, you know, to pick one or the other. I want to give Glendale a big shout out because you know that's a great team win. I said to myself that's a team win more than it is you know a lineman win, I should say. But I did go with Bellwood because Bellwood. Big 51-12 win over Penns Valley last week. I was real happy for Nick Lovrich. They took their lumps last year, Bellwood did, and to see them opening with a win, that was pretty awesome, I thought. 383 rushing yards for the day. Their left tackle, Chase Quick. Their left guard, Jack Grassmeyer. Center, Hunter Kyle. Right guard, Christian Jennings. He had a touchdown off a scoop and score.
You love that.
I love a big man touchdown, absolutely. The right tackle is Logan Ridgway, and the tight end is Caden Pellegrin. Congrats to those guys.
Michael, then we have our Mike's stat of the week. Hopefully it's a lot better than opening a pop bottle like last week's.
Yeah.
You'll have to go watch our archives to see what we're talking about. But
I think that you'll be intrigued by this one. It actually involves the team that your brother's team is playing against.
Tyrone
Johnstown. So Johnstown, in their opening game against Forest Hills, they lost the game, but they scored 26 points. And that's kind of remarkable because last season, The entire year when they went 0-10, they combined to score 56 points for the whole season. So they're only 30 points away from their entire season total from last year.
There's one more thing for Tyrone to have to worry about now. He's ruined my appetite for the rest of the night. But you know what? We're going to end it on a happy note. My favorite segment, Mike's least favorite segment.
I like it.
Cool names this week.
I wanna know what's the name of the game.
And this is our first high school stuff. So I thought I'd do Altoona and Hollidaysburg. First one for Altoona, Max Chili. I think somebody locally who does chili, maybe we get an NIL deal for this kid. Have Max try some local restaurants chili.
Skyline
Who's a
Chili.
Senior lineman from Altoona. And then the other one, I just like it because it sounds very 1800s, Civil Wars. Hollidaysburg has a senior lineman, and this kid is not only a football player, he's a musician. His name is Jefferson McCoy.
Sounds like he could
I
be
could
a
almost hear like
musician.
Colonel Sanders on the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh, Jefferson.
I mean, he sounds like one of those 1970s classic rock bands, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I thought you were going to say his last name was Stars.
Oh, there you go. Or Airplane for the really old people watching.
Maybe he's the real McCoy.
Anyways, what too bad.
That just went right over any of our high school football kids watching this.
The Max Chili, and Dan will have it spelled out there for you, and Jefferson McCoy. So that's going to do it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because I always forget to tell everybody to subscribe, like, and share. But for Mike Moyer, for Andy Stine, Dan Eisberg behind the camera, I'm Scott Franco. We will see you next week for week 3. Thanks.